And this is very simple, is what they are. One, he says, remove anger. I have a poem for each one, but I haven't got time to go into all of them. What is anger? Anger is an absence of peace. Anger is you saying to the world, what I see shouldn't be the way it is. If it is only the way I want it to be, then I wouldn't have to be unhappy right now. And you think, a lot of people think, I can't get motivated, we can't change things without anger. The best way to change anything, said Rumi, is through love. So removing all thoughts of anger towards anything or anyone, because they are lower, and lower energies. Second, forgiveness. Whoever it is that wronged you. I had somebody just remind me the other day that somebody borrowed $1,500 from me about 8 or 9 years ago. And they said, aren't you mad at that woman? She still hasn't paid you back that money that she said that she would pay back. And it's been, I don't know, a dozen years or more. And I said, I distinctly remember forgetting that. It's forgiving and forgetting and letting it go. That anything or anyone who has wronged you in any way, send them love in your consciousness. And I'm talking about the hardest things of all. Be a person who only sends love. Be a person who is the orange, that no matter what is said to you, no matter how you're squeezed, the only thing that comes out is divine love, the love that is given to us by our source. Here's the third one from Rumi. Surprised me. He said, refrain from speaking ill of anyone ever. This has been the hardest one for me, because it's just so easy to talk shit about people, isn't it? And they just give you so much stuff to talk about, you know. The way he did that, and she did that, and this one did that, and all of that. And to stop yourself. Now when I have people around me, and I have some people around me who have a habit of doing this, always talking negative about somebody, saying something about, I find myself saying, reminding myself, yeah, but she's really a nice person, or that, and now I'm telling them, I am working myself on not engaging in conversations which are put downs of anyone else. Be that person if you want to understand what it's like to be a being of light. And you know, it gets easier and easier to do. I find myself slipping. I slipped back into it a couple of days ago when someone was saying something about someone, that we all knew, and then I stopped myself and I said, I'm really working on not saying these kinds of things about anyone. Who am I? Who am I to judge anybody else? No judgment, no criticism, no condemnation towards any of God's children. That's how we are implored to behave if you want to be a being of light. The fourth is compassion. The Dalai Lama said, if we could take every child on earth at the age of 5 and have them meditate for 1 hour a week on compassion, we could eliminate all violence on our planet in 1 generation. From the Dalai Lama. That's every child at 5. 1 hour a week meditating on compassion towards others. In a generation, it's gone. It was by becoming a more compassionate person and being less flippant in my responses when I was on the radio and on television and so on. And finding a place of kindness and an opportunity to just put my arm around someone and share just a moment of love. I found that I became a healer in that process. The fifth of the 7 steps for becoming a fully human person that you'll find yourself noticing, you live from a place of humility. In the Tao, the whole Tao is filled with all of the importance of being humble, of not telling people how great you are. There's 27 verses in the Tao that refer to water. That water is the strongest substance on earth. If you take the hardest substance there is and let water run over it, eventually it'll wear away whatever it might be, the hardest substance there is, whether it's granite or whatever. Eventually, the softness of water will triumph. And water always stays low. It goes to the lowest point. And it always knows that all of the rivers and all of the raging things above it will ultimately come to it. I find even how easy it is now to avoid arguments of any kind, because you play it out in advance before it even comes. If I say this, she said that, and then she's going to say that, and I'm going to say that. You can do all of this in 3 seconds. Shoop, shoop, shoop. And you just say, I think you're right, honey. Thanks for pointing it out. And you just let it all go. It's practicing humility. The 6th is contentment, which I already talked about, state of gratitude, contentment. And 7 is generosity. And it's the weirdest part of it is that the more I give away, the more that just seems to keep coming back.
There comes a moment, quiet and subtle, like the wind brushing against the leaves of a tree at twilight, when your soul begins to whisper truths your mind has long refused to hear. In that stillness, a deeper part of you knows, truly knows, that what you've carried, what you've clung to, what you've called your story, has never been your prison. It was your permission to stay in pain, your permission to be right, your permission to keep reliving an identity that has long expired. But now, in this moment of sacred listening, your spirit is inviting you to something higher, not to fix the story, not to explain it, not to relive it once more, but to lay it down, to choose peace over history. The past is not calling for your loyalty. It is not your home, nor is it your identity. It is a trail of smoke that disappears the moment you stop chasing it. It has no power unless you bring it into the present with your thoughts, your attachments, your resistance. You see, suffering is not the result of what happened. It is the result of your refusal to release what happened. And in that resistance, you lose the present, you lose your power, and you lose yourself. We are not here to rehearse our wounds. We are not here to perfect our pain. We are here to awaken to the truth of who we are. Eternal souls wrapped in temporary form, light draped in the costume of memory. And memory, while beautiful when honored, becomes poison when worshipped. When you identify with your history, you become bound by it. You take the pain and make it personal. You say, this is who I am. This is why I cannot change. This is why I do what I do. But who told you that you must keep bleeding just because you were once cut? What if you no longer needed to explain your suffering to justify your existence? What if your healing didn't need an audience or applause or even agreement? What if the highest form of wisdom was not found in understanding the past, but in releasing it? The ego loves history. It feeds on it. It builds altars around your identity and carves the statue of yourself from the stone of yesterday. It wants you to stay loyal to your wound, because the wounded ego is a powerful excuse. It keeps you smaller than your spirit. It tells you, you've been hurt, you've been wronged. They need to understand, they need to apologize, then you will be free. But freedom is not a transaction, it's a surrender. It's not waiting on others, it's waiting on you. You, the soul behind the mask, the awareness behind the story, the light behind the wound. You are not your history. You are not your pain. You are not even your healing. You are the space in which all of it arises, and you are free to choose peace. You see, peace is not earned. It is claimed. It is not found in the retelling of your trauma or the justification of your anger or the analysis of your past. Peace is what enters when your mind becomes quiet enough to stop rehearsing old roles. It's what fills the room when you stop trying to make sense of why it all happened. Peace doesn't wait for your past to make sense, it waits for you to let go. The moment you no longer need your history to explain you is the moment you are free. And perhaps that's the secret most never learn, that the greatest healing doesn't come from understanding, it comes from unburdening. It comes from emptying yourself of the story you keep carrying like sacred scripture, as if it alone defines your worth. But your worth is not born of suffering. It is born of being, of existence, of essence. You were worthy before anything happened. You are worthy now, and nothing from the past, no matter how intense, how unjust, how personal, can take that away. unless you let it. We are trained to believe that closure must come from the outside, that others must apologize, that life must repay us, that justice must be served. But the soul plays by different rules. The soul whispers, let go. Release the need for understanding. Drop the need to be right. Because true peace comes not when the world finally agrees with your story, but when you no longer need it to. This is the deep turning point when your soul, tired of dragging history like a weight, finally decides that peace is the only thing worth protecting. Not pride, not narrative, not revenge. Peace. To choose peace over history is not to deny what happened. It is to deny it power over you. It is to honor it, thank it, and release it. It is to look at the pain and say, you taught me, but you do not own me. It is to open your arms and declare, I am no longer rehearsing a life I've already outgrown. The wake does not drive the boat, and yet so many live backwards, letting the ripple of what was determine the direction of what is. But life, in its infinite mercy, gives you the gift of now a fresh canvas, an unspoken song, a breath untainted by memory. The divine does not hold grudges. It does not keep score. It only flows endlessly, lovingly, unconditionally toward your awakening. And so must you. Let this be the moment when you loosen your grip on the rope of identity. Let this be the hour you set down the story you've been guarding like treasure and realize it was never the truth. It was a doorway, a chapter, a path to lead you to this truth, that you are more than what was done to you. You are more than what you lost. You are more than who hurt you, what you missed, or how long you suffered. You are a divine being, not broken, not behind, not late, not lost, just remembering. There is no healing in history. There is only memory. And memory, unless transmuted, becomes the chain that binds you. You don't need to relive it. You need to release it. You don't need to understand it. You need to rise above it. You don't need to prove anything. You need to come home to the truth that was never wounded to begin with. You are the awareness behind the wound, not the wound itself. You are the sky, not the weather, the soul, not the story. You can stop carrying it now. You can set it down, not because it didn't matter, but because you finally do. You don't need more time to heal. You need less resistance to the healing that has already begun. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. Waiting for you to stop arguing with what was and start allowing what is. Waiting for you to stop defining yourself by your detour and realize that nothing was ever off track. The path, the pain, the pause, it all pointed you back to presence, and presence is peace. Presence is the end of the story and the beginning of truth. What would it feel like to wake up tomorrow with no story? To not be the one who was betrayed, the one who failed, the one who always gets hurt, or the one who never gets chosen? What would it feel like to wake up not as a role, but as a soul? Not as a character in your own script, but as the consciousness watching it all unfold. This is the deep liberation. When you realize that every story about you is not you, that even the most painful identity is just that, an identity, a mask, a learned role played on the stage of time. But who you are, in truth, is timeless. And timelessness cannot be hurt, cannot be defined, cannot be contained by a past that was never yours to keep. You are the one who notices the storm, not the storm itself. You are the stillness beneath every wave of emotion. You are the breath between the thoughts that say, I am broken. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every ending you feared was actually a beginning in disguise. Every loss was a sacred excavation. Life was not trying to hurt you, it was trying to hollow you, to make space, to soften the shell of ego so your spirit could finally shine through. And all along, you were mistaking the breaking for punishment. But the breaking was the invitation. The very thing that shattered you was the thing that cracked the illusion. that let the light get in and let the truth get out. Now is the time to stop repeating. Stop explaining. Stop negotiating your worth with the past. Stop living as if your history has more truth than your soul. Your story has no power unless you breathe life into it. You've already survived it. Now let it dissolve. Let it drift like fog in the morning sun. You don't need to let go of the past because there is nothing to hold on to. You're clenching smoke and calling it identity. You're holding ash and calling it memory. And it hurts not because it's still happening, it hurts because you won't stop reliving it in your mind. The prison was never real. Only your belief in the bars made them feel solid. And yet, here you are, breath moving, heart beating, spirit stirring alive, not despite the past, but because you were never meant to live there. Life has been whispering again and again, come back, come home, come inward. The story is loud, but peace is patient. And peace will wait until you're ready to stop trying to be right and start being free. Imagine a bird refusing to fly because it remembers a cage. That's what we do when we let our history define our direction. But history cannot touch the present unless you let it. The soul does not remember wounds. It remembers wholeness. It remembers light. It remembers the truth that cannot be taken, cannot be dimmed, cannot be undone. You are not here to relive what you were meant to outgrow. You are here to transform, to alchemize, to take the raw material of what happened and turn it into wisdom, into compassion, into presence, but never into identity. The moment you decide to stop defining yourself by what happened, you begin to remember what has always been true, that you are the awareness behind the events, not the events themselves, that your being is untouched by time, that your value is not found in validation or vindication or even victory, but in the quiet peace of knowing you belong to something higher than history. You belong to the now, and the now needs no story. Peace lives where the story ends. Peace lives where the mind surrenders and the soul breathes. Peace is the permission you give yourself to stop defending your pain. It is the soft inner light that rises the moment you say, I am done trying to win an old war. Because every time you replay what hurt you, you reopen the wound. Every time you explain why you are the way you are, you reinforce the lie that your history made you. It didn't. You made you. Your choices, your awakenings, your willingness to rise. You are not who they said you were. You are not what they did to you. You are not even what you did in reaction to them. You are the quiet power behind it all. You are the one who chose to get back up. You are the one who chose to seek truth. You are the one who chose peace or is choosing it now. And that choice is everything. Because in that choice, you become the creator again. You reclaim your voice, not to shout your story louder, but to sing your soul song, a song of silence, of release, of deep grounding joy. The joy that comes not from fixing the past, but from no longer needing to. You see, healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about letting go of everything that is not truly you. The layers of narrative, the burden of roles, the voice that says you must suffer in order to be seen. That voice is not yours. That voice is ego dressed in spiritual language. But truth does not shout. Truth doesn't demand attention. Truth simply is. And when you are still enough to hear it, you remember you've always been whole. There is no need to explain your healing, no need to prove your growth, no need to convince anyone of your peace. Peace is its own proof. It radiates, it softens, it frees. And if they never understand you, so what? If they never apologize, so be it. If the world never acknowledges what you went through, Let it pass. Your peace does not depend on their permission. Your peace depends on your release. You can drop it now. Let the story fall away like autumn leaves from a tree that no longer needs to carry the past into the winter. The tree does not mourn the falling leaf. It celebrates the clearing. So too must you. Celebrate what you no longer carry. Celebrate what no longer owns you. Celebrate the sacred emptiness that makes space for the soul to speak again. You are not empty because you let go. You are empty so that truth can finally fill you. And the truth is this: you have always been enough, always been whole, always been free. You just forgot. And now you remember. The world around you is not waiting for your explanation, it's waiting for your embodiment. Life responds not to your wounds, but to your willingness. And the universe does not heal through repetition, it heals through surrender. When you stop telling the story, you stop bleeding from it. When you stop rehearsing the reasons, you begin to remember the truth beneath them all, that you were never the one in need of fixing. You were the one remembering wholeness beneath the noise. You've spent years building scaffolding around your pain with thoughts, beliefs, conditions, and justifications, and none of it made you freer. It only made your prison more elaborate. It only made your history feel more personal, but it was never personal. Nothing that has ever happened to you has touched the essence of who you are. It could not, because what you are cannot be harmed. It can only be hidden behind layers of noise, behind identity, behind a history that you now realize you do not need. The soul does not care who was right. The soul only asks, can you be free? Can you choose liberation over explanation? Can you be the one who lets it go, not because it was okay, but because you are? Can you walk away from the ruins of your past, not as a survivor, but as a witness of grace? Forgiveness, true forgiveness, is not something you give to another. It is the gift you give to your own nervous system. It is the moment you decide, I will no longer let this experience dictate the energy of my life. It is the soft miracle that happens when your spirit speaks louder than your memory. It is not a reward for the past. It is an offering to the present. And understand this, your spiritual power lies not in how much you know, but in how much you release. It lies not in the complexity of your story, but in the simplicity of your surrender. The more you let go, the lighter you become. The more you choose peace, the clearer you see. The ego holds, the spirit flows, and every time you flow, you return home. You see, this whole life is not about collecting experiences. It is about unlearning the ones that told you you were less than divine. It's about stripping away every voice that told you your peace must be earned. You were never here to perform for healing. You are here to realize that healing is not something you chase, it's something you allow. It's something that rises when you stop believing that you are your history. Because you are not. You are the sky before the clouds. You are the stillness before the storm. You are the I am that echoes before any name, any story, any label was placed upon you. You are not your timeline. You are not your wounds. You are not the echoes of trauma or the shadows of childhood. You are now, and now is always unburdened. Now is always free. Every time you remember this, every time you breathe and choose stillness over reaction, truth over identity, forgiveness over explanation, you come closer to yourself. Not the self you invented to survive, but the self that existed before survival was ever needed. The self that smiles without reason, the self that watches without judgment, the self that loves without memory. This is the sacred undoing, the unraveling of everything you were taught to believe in order to reveal what you have always been. And so I invite you right here, right now, to become light, to become so free within that no thought, no history, no opinion can touch your peace. Let your heart be the sanctuary. It was always meant to be not a courtroom for replaying old verdicts, but a temple for silence, for softness, for serenity. There is no version of peace that requires you to keep justifying your suffering. There is no version of freedom that includes dragging your past into every conversation. And there is no version of awakening that keeps your identity anchored to the pain you've already outgrown. You've done enough. You've proven enough. You've explained enough. Now be still. Let it go. Watch what happens when you stop being loyal to your history and start being loyal to your peace. Watch how life reorganizes itself around your release. Watch how your body heals when you no longer rehearse the harm. Watch how your energy shifts when you no longer argue for your limitations. It was never about the other person. It was never about the apology that never came. It was about you finally deciding that your inner landscape deserves the quiet that only comes when you choose peace over proof. Peace over story. Peace over pride. Peace over performance. You are not here to fix your history. You are here to awaken from it. You are here to remember that the soul's language is not made of memory, but of presence. Not of pain, but of possibility. And not of who you were, but of what you are becoming. You don't need to wait another year. You don't need another therapist, another book, another retreat. You don't need more time. You just need one courageous breath where you decide that your life begins not with your pain, but with your choice to stop carrying it. The mind will protest. The ego will scream. But let it, because beneath the noise, beneath the pull to go back into the old story, your soul is waiting in silence, in stillness, in truth, for you to remember that you've always had the power to choose a new path. Not by force, not by fixing, but by releasing, by becoming empty enough to be filled with light again. Let that be your offering. Let that be your rebirth. Not with fireworks, not with fanfare, but with a quiet, holy yes. A yes to peace, a yes to freedom, a yes to now. What a relief it is to no longer perform for your worth. What a liberation to no longer need the world to echo back what your heart has always known, that you are not broken, not behind, not bound. You are not the sum of your reactions. You are not a title carved from trauma. You are presence itself, wearing the brief mask of a life story that no longer fits. There is a sacred courage in releasing the familiar pain, because even suffering can become comfortable when it becomes identity. Even misery can feel like home when you've lived in it long enough. And yet, there comes a day, quiet, sacred, unremarkable to the world, when your soul whispers, I can't do this anymore. Not because it's too hard, but because it's no longer true. You stop blaming, you stop defending, you stop needing to be understood. And in that moment, you are reborn. You begin to see that no one ever truly held you back except your agreement with their vision of you. You thought they had power, you thought their words mattered, but it was your belief that gave them meaning. It was your attachment to the story that gave it roots. And now you are remembering stories only live when they are fed. Stop feeding the old tale and it starves. Stop rehearsing the pain and it fades. You do not heal by digging deeper into the narrative. You heal by rising above it. You heal when you stop believing that your history is holy. You heal when you stop needing your pain to prove your strength. You heal when you stop defining your identity by what hurts you and start defining it by what frees you. And freedom, real freedom, is always simple. It's the moment you walk out of your own cage and realize the door was never locked. You were never waiting on time to pass. You were waiting on permission, and that permission was always yours to give. So give it now. Give yourself the permission to be happy without justification, to feel peace without resolving every detail, to be free without having to explain to the world why you deserve it. You deserve it because you are, not because of what you've survived, not because of what you've lost, not because of what you've learned. You deserve it because you are life itself. You are awareness unbothered, undamaged, eternal. The stories came later, and they will go when you no longer worship them. Let go of the altar you built around your suffering. Let go of the temple you built around being misunderstood. You were never meant to dwell in the echo of pain. You were meant to rise radiant and soft in the silence beyond it. And what is peace, truly, but the end of your allegiance to pain? What is peace but the moment you say, I choose stillness, even if I was right? What is peace but choosing not to carry the weight of being wounded into every interaction, every relationship, every dream? History wants you to repeat it. Peace invites you to release it. And your soul, ageless, formless, infinite, is asking you now, which will you choose? Because you do choose. Every day, with every thought, with every emotional rehearsal of the past, with every silent agreement you make, with a version of you that no longer fits. Choose again. Choose peace. Choose it not once, but over and over when you're triggered, when you're tired, when you're tempted to explain, to justify, to defend. Choose it when the old story knocks and says, let me back in. Choose it when your ego says, they need to know how much you've suffered. Choose it when your memory tries to seduce you with the false comfort of being right. Choose peace over being right. Choose presence over performance. Choose becoming over blaming. This is not weakness. This is spiritual strength, because it takes no power to hold a grudge. It takes no wisdom to replay a wound. It takes no vision to argue for your past. But it takes divine maturity to say, I will not carry this any longer. I will not breathe life into this pain again. I will not shrink myself to stay inside a story that dims my soul. And make no mistake, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the absence of identification. Peace is what remains when you stop believing the thoughts that keep you in chains. Peace is your natural state. It is not found in retreat centers or mantras or books, though they may guide you there. Peace is found in the stillness between thoughts, in the soft exhale after you've let go, in the presence that remains when identity falls away. You are not becoming peaceful, you are returning to what you always were. And in this return, there is no drama, no grand event, no validation from the world. There is only stillness. There is only the quiet recognition that you are finally free. You no longer need to win an argument that no longer exists. You no longer need to carry the history of a self that was never truly you. You no longer need to live your life through the lens of what happened, because what happened was only one moment in time and you are timeless. You are awareness, and awareness cannot be harmed. You are presence, and presence needs no defense. You are love, and love does not argue. So release the need to narrate your healing. Release the temptation to dress your pain in spiritual robes. Release the idea that your story must be redeemed to have meaning. It already had meaning, but the meaning was never in the pain. The meaning was in your awakening, in your surrender, in the moment you laid it all down and said, enough. I am done carrying this weight. I am done explaining my sadness. I am done performing my pain. I choose peace now. I choose silence over noise. I choose truth over story. I choose soul over ego. I choose now over history, because history can only offer memory, but now offers everything. Now offers God. Now offers healing. Now offers freedom. Now offers life. And so here you are, no longer at war with the moment, no longer demanding that the past apologize for your pain, no longer shrinking yourself to fit inside the container of a story that never deserved to hold your soul. You are standing in the doorway of now. You are at the threshold of what cannot be explained but can only be felt, the sacred space where the mind bows, the ego dissolves, and what remains is something wordless, eternal, and unmistakably you. Not the you the world named, not the you shaped by roles or reasons, not the you that needed fixing, proving, surviving, but the you that watches, the you that never leaves, the you that is always, always at peace. Do you feel it? Not in thought, but in the stillness behind the thought, in the quiet between the next breath and the last, in the moment where you finally stop reaching, stop grasping, stop trying to make the story make sense, and simply let it be. This is not resignation, it is resurrection. You are not giving up, you are giving in. Not to the past, but to the present, to the sacred unfolding of a life, no longer filtered through wounds, to the power of what happens when you stop narrating and start being. You are a divine being, not becoming, not trying, simply being. And being in its purest form carries no story. It carries presence, it carries truth, it carries peace. What a miracle to no longer identify with the one who was wounded, but with the one who witnessed the wound and chose to wake up instead of stay asleep. What a gift to no longer keep your suffering alive, just so others will know it was real. You know, it was real. That's enough. You lived it, and now you are done reliving it. Because truth does not ask for proof. Healing does not need permission. And peace does not wait. It has been here all along, waiting for you to get tired enough of history to finally choose heaven. Not the heaven in the sky, but the heaven in your breath, in your stillness, in your presence. Do you understand now? Peace is not something you earn by fixing your past. Peace is something you remember when you no longer need to fix anything. And in that remembering, you drop the need to control, to rewrite, to validate. You allow what was to rest. You allow what is to rise. You walk through life no longer reacting, no longer defending, no longer defining your moments by yesterday's shadow. You become quiet, not because you have no words, but because you no longer need them. You become soft, not because you are weak, but because you are free. You become light, not because you chased it, but because you stopped carrying what dimmed it. This is the fruit of choosing peace over history. It's not a loud victory. It's not a spiritual badge. It's not something the world may even recognize. It is a quiet transformation, an invisible miracle, a sacred shift within the heart, where you go from narrating your life to embodying it, where you stop saying, this is who I became because of what happened, and start living as, this is who I've always been beyond what happened. You are not your scars. You are the light that shines through them. You are not your past. You are the sky that held it. You are not your healing. You are the spaciousness that allowed it. And you do not need to prove anything to be worthy of peace. You only need to say yes. Yes to letting go. Yes to being seen without the story. Yes to the you that never needed defending. Yes to the divine flow that carries you now without needing you to steer. This is what it means to be whole. Not to be perfect, not to be certain, but to be empty enough to be filled with what's real. To live your life with open hands, open heart, open awareness. To allow each moment to be what it is, no longer filtered through memory, no longer distorted by projection. Just now, just this, just peace. Because when you drop the story, what remains is always peace. And when you stop repeating history, life begins again. You can hear the birds again. You can feel the breeze again. You can see the sky for the first time in years because your mind is no longer clouded by ghosts. This is what awakening is. This is what freedom is. It is not an escape from life. It is a return to it, a wholly grounded, embodied return to the miracle of being unburdened, unchained, untold. No more rehearsing, no more explaining, no more defending, only living, only breathing, only shining. So let the past go. Let the story go. Let the identity built from pain fall apart like dust in sunlight. You will not miss it. You will not need it. What rises in its place is not a better version of you, but the real one. The one who never needed the story. The one who was never waiting to be healed. The one who has always been whole. Choose peace again and again. Let it become your home, your compass, your baseline. Let it be the place you return to, not when things are easy, but especially when they are not. Because peace is not the end of your journey. Peace is the path. Peace is the teacher. Peace is the light that was always within you before the wound, before the narrative, before the noise. You were never your history. You were never your pain. You are now. You are free. And now that you remember, you will never forget again.
My dear, wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation. How to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute, and it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Wayne, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But then this is crucial. Your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced, for feeling is the secret. And your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it. Because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this. Every outer conversation, if you have, is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle. Engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity. But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies in maintaining your new conversation, regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No, his inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws, and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality, not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, "This isn't working," immediately revise it too. "Everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now." This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth. Consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health. Consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear. You must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation. And like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. For you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, "I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me." If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, "I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more." But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. Fulfilling is the secret, and your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, Your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be aligned with feeling rich with the emotion of your desired state. For it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible. To your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God, all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates a belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak. Think as that person would think. Feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is not, what was, or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true. Even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity. For your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates a relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is, your consciousness in action creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your uniqueness. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the Word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?